Prayer is not asking, it is a longing of the soul. When I read those words from Gandhi, something clicked deep inside me. I felt a wave of realization wash over me. I'd been treating prayer like a spiritual shopping list instead of a heartfelt connection. Today I'm sharing how that insight sparked a complete revival in my prayer life. Stay with me as I walk you through the simple but powerful routine that transformed my relationship with God. What happened next surprised even me, and it might be exactly what you need, even if you're feeling completely disconnected right now. Have you ever felt like you're just going through the motions in your prayer life? That was me last year, sitting in my car, staring at the ceiling, wondering if anyone was even listening. Every morning, I'd wake up, grab my coffee, and mumble the same tired words I'd been saying for years. God, thank you for this day. Bless my family. Help me make good choices. Check, 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 prayer complete. But inside, I felt absolutely nothing. My prayers had become like a broken record, spinning the same worn-out tracks day after day. I even kept a timer on my phone. 10 minutes of prayer time that often left me watching seconds tick by after running out of things to say, or getting distracted by notifications. When that timer went off, I'd feel this weird mix of relief and guilt. Relief that I could move on with my day, guilt that prayer had become just another box to check. Each day felt more empty than the last. The spiritual drought deepened when my dad got sick last spring. The doctors found a mass, and suddenly everything in my life felt like it was spinning out of control. You'd think this would be when my prayer life would kick into high gear, right? But instead, I found myself completely unable to pray. The words just wouldn't come. All my years of doing it right, regular prayer times, church attendance, Bible studies, left me stranded when I actually needed to connect with God. I couldn't sleep at night. I scrolled through Pinterest boards of prayer journals and Bible study methods, convinced the right system would fix everything. That beautiful leather-bound prayer journal, it sat empty on my nightstand, silently judging me every morning. The prayer apps on my phone just became notifications I swiped away. The embarrassment was real. I started avoiding people at church who might ask about my spiritual life. When my friend Sarah texted about joining her prayer group, I pretended not to see the message for 3 days. I couldn't admit how hollow everything had become. One desperate morning, I tried praying out loud while driving to work, thinking maybe hearing my own voice would make it feel more real. Halfway through, I caught myself bargaining. Look, I'm giving you 15 minutes of undivided attention here, so could you please just give me some peace about Dad's situation? That's when it hit me. I wasn't approaching God as someone I loved. I was treating him like a vending machine. Insert prayer, receive blessing. Everything crashed on a Sunday morning in April. I drove to church but couldn't bring myself to walk inside. Watching families enter, smiling and chatting, I felt like the biggest fraud in the world. How could I go in there and sing about God's presence when I hadn't felt it in months? As I started the car back up, ready to leave, this overwhelming thought hit me. This isn't working and I can't fake it anymore. With my head on the steering wheel, I prayed the most honest words I'd said in years. God, I have no idea how to talk to you anymore. I don't know what happened, but something's broken and I don't know how to fix it. What I didn't know then was that someone was about to walk into my life who would completely challenge everything I thought I knew about prayer. Someone who prayed in a way I'd never seen before. Messy, authentic, and alive. And they weren't even who you'd expect. That person turned out to be my 78-year-old neighbor, Margaret, someone I'd barely noticed before. Who would have thought this humble, wise woman would completely dismantle my rigid, seminary-approved prayer techniques? But here's what's crazy. The way she talked to God was nothing like the polished prayers I'd been forcing myself to recite. I met Margaret while helping her carry groceries one afternoon. When I mentioned my church attendance had been spotty lately, she just smiled and said, "Maybe God's trying to meet you somewhere else." That comment stopped me in my tracks. No lecture about commitment. Just a simple suggestion that perhaps God wasn't confined to where I thought he should be. Margaret invited me for tea the following week. Her living room became the unlikely sanctuary where I learned to pray again. Mismatched furniture, photos everywhere, and her cat constantly interrupting our conversation. "You're treating God like he's your boss, not your father," she told me directly on my third visit. Her words pierced through years of religious performance I'd built around myself. When I defended my structured approach, explaining the prayer formulas I'd learned, she laughed. "Honey, when was the last time you had to use a formula to talk to someone you love?" Margaret challenged everything I thought I knew. My carefully timed sessions? God doesn't wear a wristwatch, she told me. My formal language? Talk to him like he's sitting right across from you because he is. My organized prayer lists? Those aren't bad, but sometimes it's okay to just sit quietly and let him do the talking. Instead of recommending popular Christian bestsellers, Margaret handed me a worn copy of The Practice of the Presence of God by Brother Lawrence, a 17th century monk who found God while washing dishes. This man understood that prayer isn't about performing, it's about being present. My first attempt at Margaret's way of praying was painfully awkward. Sitting in her living room trying to just talk to God, I found myself completely tongue-tied. Every instinct screamed at me to pull out my phone and set that timer again. I finally blurted out after uncomfortable silence, "Why is this so hard?" "Because you're still trying to impress him," Margaret said gently. "Prayer isn't a performance, it's presence. Just be here, with all your messy thoughts and feelings." That moment shattered my preconceived ideas about prayer and opened a door to a more intimate conversation with God. For years, I'd been treating prayer like a spiritual achievement, something to master and perfect. I watched her pray about everyday things, talking to God while watering plants, or thanking him for the cardinal at her feeder. Once I found her laughing, and when I asked why, she said, "I just told God about this ridiculous thing at the grocery store," and I could almost hear him laughing with me. Her prayers weren't always pretty. When her arthritis flared up, she told God exactly how frustrated she was. No spiritual sugarcoating, just raw honesty. Margaret didn't talk about God, she talked with him. Through our weekly visits, I identified the mistakes draining my spiritual energy. I'd been trying to sound spiritual instead of being honest. I'd focused on checking off time instead of connection. And I'd been treating prayer as a monologue rather than a conversation. The most surprising lesson came when Margaret showed me contemplative prayer. Breath prayer, she called it. Just focus on being present with God rather than performing tasks for him. She taught me to synchronize simple phrases with my breathing, inhaling Lord Jesus and exhaling be with me now. So simple yet profoundly centering. Margaret breath prayer, Lord Jesus, be with me now. That simple breath prayer became the foundation of what I now call my 3C system, a framework so basic I almost dismissed it as too elementary to make any real difference. But here's the truth. Sometimes the most powerful spiritual practices aren't complicated at all. They're just simple. The 3C system: connect, converse, carry. After years of overcomplicating my prayer life, I found that everything boiled down to 3 straightforward steps. Connect, converse, carry. That's it. This approach felt revolutionary because it was accessible, doable, and sustainable, exactly what my prayer life had been missing. Let me walk you through each part of this system, starting with connect. Think of this as creating your own pocket of sacred space wherever you are. Imagine carving out a quiet haven even in the middle of your busiest day. For me, this looks different depending on the circumstances. Sometimes it's sitting in my car for 2 minutes before heading into work. Other times it's at my kitchen table before the rest of the house wakes up. I've discovered that physical posture significantly impacts my prayer experience. Kneeling centers my scattered thoughts, while walking helps when I feel spiritually stagnant. My favorite way to connect is by acknowledging God's presence with a simple phrase like, "You are here," while taking deep breaths. No fancy words, just authentic recognition that I'm not alone. The second C, converse, transformed everything for me. This phase bridges the gap between merely thinking about God and actually engaging with him. Instead of presenting my pre-written wish list, I structure this time around a single question. What's on your heart for us to talk about today? This shift turned my prayer from a monologue into a genuine conversation. I maintain a simple framework of thanksgiving, listening, asking, and responding. The breakthrough? I now spend more time in the listening part than all the others combined. A consistent prayer space helps me stay focused, nothing elaborate, just familiar. This leads naturally to the final C, carry, which extends prayer beyond those dedicated moments into a lifestyle. Prayer becomes woven into the fabric of my entire day through practical, everyday tools. I even use my phone, yes, the very device that once distracted me from prayer, to send random reminders with simple prompts like, "God is with you right now," or "Take a breath." Prayer break. The versatility of this system makes it powerful. During hectic mornings, my connect phase might be just 60 seconds while my coffee brews. On lunch breaks, I might spend 10 minutes in my car for focused converse time. Even sleepless nights become opportunities for prayer as I acknowledge God's presence beside me. The beauty of this approach emphasizes presence over performance, authenticity over appearance, and integration over isolation. It reminds me of Daniel in the Bible, who established a rhythm of praying 3 times daily. What inspires me about his example is how prayer became so intrinsic to his identity that even the threat of death couldn't stop his connection with God. That's the kind of continuous conversation I've come to cherish prayer as a natural extension of who I am. Let me tell you something amazing that happened when I finally got this prayer thing right. My whole life changed. Before, prayer was just another item on my to-do list. Now it's the foundation that transformed everything else. Research confirms this shift not only deepens your spiritual life, but also boosts emotional well-being and resilience, reducing stress and anxiety along the way. Here's the beautiful part. This transformation can happen for you too. Your journey won't look exactly like mine, and that's perfectly okay. The invitation remains the same. Step away from the empty checkbox and into a real relationship with God. Just 5 to 10 minutes a day is all it takes to begin. Prayer will evolve from a scheduled activity into a constant presence in your life. Imagine feeling God by your side throughout your day. Now take that first step and invite this change into your daily life. Stay blessed, my friend.